Okay.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Skateboarding.
Let's go.
You know those old school skateboard days?
Dokin Yatun. Daiwachi Manage Oichigi Sa Imagi Abano. I basically said, how are you? It's nice to see you in Jah'Kota. I was born and raised in Winnipeg. Moved to Ottawa in 2010. My father's from Kingston, Jamaica, so I could also introduce myself and say Wagwan, you know what I mean? I would say my life journey has guided me as an artist and entrepreneur. Music has always been a part of my life since I was born. My brother was a DJ, and I have vivid memories of my brother. He used to sneak me into the club illegally. I was too young, and I'd be underneath the DJ table passing him the records, you know? So music is a huge influence. My dad was in a band, so there's constant, you know, instruments around. Just my upbringing is really influential with music. My mom was an artist. She did a lot of sewing, beading, and actual visual art herself. And so I think those are a lot of early influences that have inspired me on my journey to be an artist. I believe that through entrepreneurship, we can achieve self-determination. That when we start a career, when we start a business, we make our own resources of income, we can determine the outcome of our lives ourselves. And I think that can be true for individuals and as a nation. So I'm really passionate about economic development, business development, and entrepreneurship. Yeah, so Jah'Kota comes from a derivative of my identity, actually. It's kind of interesting. So my full name is Justin Alexander Holness. My father being from Kingston, Jamaica, Jah Rastafari is a big part of that. And so my initials are made that way on purpose, intentionally, just to kind of respect the Jamaican culture. And, you know, so hanging out with Brock Lewis, I was always telling him, I'm like, my man, I feel like my rap name is too short. Like Jah, it needs something else. And so we were hanging out at Sinbad's at the time, a shisha spot here in the Ottawa region. And we were just kicking it and doing our thing. And I ended up going to the bathroom. I come back, he's like, what about Jah'Kota? I was like, damn, that sounds dope. And he's like, well, yeah, because Jah is your initials, and then the K-O-T-A is respecting my mother's lineage, of which we're Jah'Kota, Assiniboine people. So Jah is my Jamaican side, K-O-T-A is my mother's side, and so that's how Jah'Kota was manifested. So when it comes to my creative spaces and tapping into a place where I can express my creativity, it really comes from me figuring out a way that I can turn my mind off, which is kind of weird in the sense of you're writing lyrics and you're putting music together, you're creating something, but I really try to turn my mind off and open up myself to receive messages from the spirit world or from Creator or from my ancestors. So when you can learn to quiet your inner chatter, you can actually start to hear the language of the land. You can hear the language of the spirit world. And so when I'm in my zone, I really need to be in a place that's familiar. I need to be surrounded by things like my feathers or my smudge or things that are connecting me to that spirit place. And then I just basically allow a stream of consciousness to go through my mind, touch my heart, and then I try to basically piece it all together, figuring out what is the messages that Creator is trying to send me. I really believe that our mind and our brain is actually our kind of antenna. It's our reception where we can receive those thoughts and our visions and our way to connect with spirit. And then we're supposed to use our heart to articulate that. One of the first organs that is created when we're becoming a child, when we're being born, is actually the heart. And then the heart is then developed in order to create our nervous system. And then the nervous system allows the development of the brain in order to support the heart. So when I'm trying to create things, I have to make sure that it's coming from my heart. It's coming from that place of truth. And when it comes to my music, I was actually reflecting about it not too long ago. And you can kind of hear the anger in my albums. And then Woke basically was a transition from that, because I realized that a lot of the ways I'm expressing or sharing my music, whether I'm on stage or I'm creating a piece of content, I don't want to continuously re-traumatize myself or re-traumatize the people who are listening to that. And so I started to kind of channel my energy in a way of, how can I empower our people instead? My album, The Resurgence, was me identifying through my relationship with Creator that we are in a time of the resurgence of our people. I was at a powwow a few years ago, and this is a time when I was working at Wabana, which is an Aboriginal health center, as a youth diversion coordinator, working with young people in conflict with the law. And we're in this gym, and I find my seat kind of at the back of the school gym. And then all of a sudden all the dancers show up and they all line up for the grand entry. And as they're about to get started, this young boy comes out, couldn't have been more than like 8 years old or something. And he's there to do the opening prayer. He comes up to the front, all super confident, clearly raised in the culture. And he opens up the prayer by speaking his language. Fully, he does the whole prayer in his traditional language. And that's when it hit me. I was like, wow. As if this elementary school just gets to come out of class and go to a powwow as if that was normal. That was not normal for me growing up. I never had that experience. And then this young kid being able to speak his traditional language and do an opening prayer. I'm like, our young people are being brought up in our culture. Our young people are being raised on the powwow trail. They're understanding their culture and all these different things. And the creator was like, that's because this is the resurgence era. So I try to use my music and these albums to kind of capture these moments in time that I feel creator's been guiding me. It's just make sure you're speaking from your truth. Try not to be too influenced by outside factors. Speak from your own personal lived experience. And I think that's gonna allow you to really create the best art. Listen to your heart. Don't let your mind cloud your feelings. Really tap into your emotional self, that emotional intelligence. And I think just be honest and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to fail, and those are the best lessons learned. So to any new content creator out there, really follow your dream, because I believe that when we do what we love and we love what we do, that's a better life lived. And if more people in the world are doing what they love, there's more love that exists in this world. And I just think that's a better world that we should all live in. Yeah, so my last song video project, The Matriarch, is my way of paying tribute to all the women who are paving the way, leading the way, stepping into their power, and honoring the rise of the sacred feminine. I feel so grateful that even in the space I'm in right now, we're surrounded mostly by women. And I think that I feel so grateful and full of gratitude that my life journey has guided me to connect with such amazing human beings. And so throughout my life path, I've always just wanted to do my part to give back. And I think this song is just really my way of honoring the women in my life, paying homage and tribute to all the women in the world who are leading the way and doing their part to make this world a better place. And I just feel honored to be able to share that path with a lot of the humans I've met throughout this world. The matriarchs and the women that influenced my life, first and foremost is my mother. I have to pay homage to the work that she's done to make sure that she found balance in her life so that she doesn't pass on or project any of those past traumas onto her kids. I have a lot of female aunties, and I was raised with 3 grandmothers. So my great-grandparents had 8 kids, and I've only met 3 of them, and they're all sisters. So I was raised where they're all my grandmother, they're all my kush. And so to understand the legacy of my grandmothers is what really influences my relationship and my passion for the rise of the sacred feminine. My grandmother, Leona, actually taught Jah'Kota language classes at the First Nation University in Regina, and she was the first person to bring the Jah'Kota language classes to that university. So aside from the fact that they're residential schools, they've done amazing things. My other grandma, Luxie Big Eagle, she was part of Chief and Council literally till her last breath. My grandmother, Laura Big Eagle, she's one of my biggest inspirations, I would say, because not only did she go through all of the trauma that she experienced, but she was the lead negotiator to help reestablish our First Nation community. What I think is really important when we're talking about Indigenous people is identifying the difference between what happens to us and who we are as people. So when we talk about land back and we talk about these important topics that are being discussed throughout this country, I'm really inspired by the work that my grandmother has done, and I feel it's a true example of that. And so that legacy of women in positions of leadership, in positions of power, has always been relevant in my life since I was a baby, before I even knew the significance of it. The first human environment is a woman. Every human being is born of a woman. Women have 2 X chromosomes. Men have 1 X, 1 Y. So when you learn that, you understand that you carry a sacred feminine as a male. And so I'm really trying to do that work to honor that. Learning that knowledge and understanding that is why we need to really help build up our women, because at the end of the day, the stronger the woman, the stronger our nation. The idea of being a man over time has been totally misconstrued. I think it's been misinterpreted, and I think that a lot of men have been misguided. I think they've been taught to suppress their emotions. They've been taught to man up and be tough and all these things. So I think that that's a completely misinterpretation of how we're supposed to actually be as men. Because like I mentioned earlier, it's like the stronger the woman, the stronger the man in relationships, the stronger the woman, the stronger the nation in the world views. So I think that, you know, we're run by a patriarch right now, and look at the condition of the world. And so I really think that I encourage men to really tap into their sacred feminine, understand their relationship with their emotional intelligence, and that's how we're gonna have a better relationship with people, with human beings, with our communities, with what's necessary in order for our world to be a better place.